Hey guys, Bryan Martin was working on an oil rig and just being a regular dude. Well, if you can call the word roughneck a regular dude, when he wrote a song to his wife. And he decided to put that song out on social media. And 13 million views later, this guy goes from being a regular dude on an oil rig, 9-to-5 job, to becoming a singer-songwriter in Music City, USA. But it wasn't overnight. It was more than a decade of hard work in the making. And on this episode of Unbeatable, you get a chance to hear this raw story about drugs and struggles and suicide attempts and all that went into him becoming the kind of guy who can pour his heart out in a song or on the stage. Check out Bryan Martin on this episode of Unbeatable.
These stories of triumph over adversity will help you handle your toughest days in life and become unbeatable.
Hey, Bryan with a Y Martin, thank you for being part of this episode of Unbeatable with me.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, thanks. I want to get into your story. I want to tell people what you're doing now, and then what I want to do is go back in time and tell everybody what you were doing and this incredible leap from the oil rigs and roughnecking to writing and producing songs right now in Music City, USA. So you got a single that just dropped. I hope people have started streaming it on their favorite music platform, but you just dropped Wolves Cry. You have been writing music for a while, man. Tell us a little bit about this song that just came out.
Man, this song just kind of like relates back to where I'm from, that little spot on the river right there on the border of Louisiana and Texas. And
All right.
it's I know a lot of my family that was married in, which my uncle that passed away not too long ago, were native, and a lot of my family were cowboys, so I was always right there in the middle. And
Okay.
so, but I always had that feeling of, this was my little piece. My dad's place was only 3 acres, but in a double-wide trailer. But that was my little piece of heaven,
Yeah.
and that was my one piece of land that I knew that my daddy worked hard to get. And no matter how big the acreage, that was ours. And if it was just something that I still hold sacred, man. Just knowing that I'm that connected to both sides, because of the land and because of my heritage and because of where I come from. And so every time I go back there, I'm just want a chance to walk through the woods and go down to the creeks, man.
I just got this mental image of you walking around the woods with boots and a hat on. Actually, you in a John boat on the
Yes.
on the river, just cruising along with boots and a hat on. A little bit of Texas, a little bit of Louisiana in the mix.
I'm right between the tumbleweeds and the swamp moss. That's what.
The tumbleweeds that burrow across the top of the swamp in your neck.
That's it.
I get it. Okay.
My dad's family was from San Antonio, so that's where the cowboy comes from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Well, for people that are tuned in and watching this thing on YouTube from around the world, maybe they don't know a little bit about your background. So now let me go back in time a little bit.
Okay.
You started talking about the family heritage, the land that your daddy worked hard to earn. And when you write music, man, it is obvious that your songs are real and they're raw, and you don't try to be somebody that you're not.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's go way back. Tell us a little bit about growing up with a pretty talented, musically talented family, and especially your really talented mother. Can you describe a little bit of this for a while?
Yes, sir. My mom, she had her own band. She was traveling around, which was how she met my dad, because my dad's family was the leaders of that band, and then they brought her on. And the honky tonks and the bars and going around and doing that, and she sang on the hayride with David Houston and Bryan Young. And when I was born, she had 7 miscarriages before me, and so like when I was born, she just started singing.
Wow.
She just started
You
singing.
were a miracle baby, man. And she had
Thank
7
you.
miscarriages before you.
And she said she went to singing in churches and singing around, doing different little grand openings and festivals around locally, but she kind of put her stuff on the back burner. But she put me on the front burner And I'll be honest with you, it's one of those things where sometimes I look back on it and I go, man, I remember she was making demo tapes of me at 4
Yeah.
years old singing Achy Breaky Heart.
Yeah.
And then I was dragged around to these festivals and singing like 2 songs every night and practicing them for 8 hours a day from the age of 6 on up. And that's the thing, though, man, is I had a passion for it, but at the same time, I had a passion for the music itself
Yeah.
more than I had a passion for the actual being the entertainer, I guess. You know?
Yeah. Your mother sang with one of my favorites. She's not the most powerful voice I've ever heard, but probably one of the purest voices I've ever heard in my life is Alison Krauss. Your
Alison
mother
Krauss.
sang with Alison Krauss. And I just get the idea, I get a little bit of hair on the back of my neck sticking up thinking
My,
about those two doing a duet.
my mama told me that story about the Keithville Jamboree. So, like, we're
Hmm.
right there around where I'm from around 60 miles south of Shreveport, you know? And so the
Uh-huh.
Keithville area, and, you know, that's where the hayride and stuff was. And so the Keithville Jamboree was this little old place, but that's where the Cox family used to sing and all those. And they're all from around that area. And, you know, Alison Krauss, when my mama sang with her, she was only 13 years old, but she was out there with the Cox family performing.
Wow.
You know, just about like me, man. She started at a young age, and that's really she didn't have no. I mean, she had a choice, but it was something that's like if you're around it. I've never been a spectator anyway. If I'm gonna go watch something, I want to be a part of it.
That's what I'm talking about. I gotta know how this felt for you though, man. 6, 7, 8 years old. Now, obviously, your mama and daddy are both very comfortable being on the stage, but it's one thing seeing your parents on the stage, and another being a 6, 7, 8 year old
Yeah.
boy up on the stage at a fair or at a festival. And I can't imagine how your knees were knocking at
Oh
that
yeah.
age. What did it feel like being on the stage at that age, with mama telling you to sing a song or two?
Man, it felt like I can still remember it. It's that nervousness that I still get today. Like a lot of people don't know it, but I still have that same anxiety.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
all these years, it's the same feeling of going up there and going, man, let me just get these first couple notes out without me. You know, it's like
Without messing up.
pulling something up out of you. Like you
Yeah.
got that I don't want to be up here thing, but at the same time, you know, I practiced in a room by myself. I can do it like nobody's business. But when I get up on that stage and you got people looking at you, I still have that feeling. But I still hold that feeling as something that's kept me where I'm at, and
Yeah.
mentally knowing that that's how much respect I have for the people that I'm in front of, the people that are listening, and also respect for what we're doing. It
Yeah.
holds a high value in my heart to know that music can move people, and no matter what you're about to say or what you're about to sing, you know you're moving somebody in certain ways, and you always want to try to move people in the right ways and move them in the forward motion. You know, so
Yeah, and I'm impressed that you keep that attitude towards performing. Brian, you already know this, man. The statistics say that the most terrifying personal fear for people is getting on stage, either speaking in front of a crowd or singing in front of a crowd. In fact, the research says people would rather die, literally would rather die. They're less afraid of dying than standing on stage. I know a little bit of what that feels like as a public speaker. Obviously, you're on stage at 6, 7, 8 years old. And even though mama's right in the
yeah.
side, right on the side there, you're still out there in front of a huge crowd. And that's extremely intimidating.
It is because you're not. Also, you know, I always want to make her proud too. So, you
Yeah.
know, I
Right.
didn't ever want to get up there and mess up. And that was another thing I held on me too, is because even if she wouldn't have never even said nothing about it, I held that at a young age, going, hey, my mama is known for this, and so if I'm up here doing this, I
You're
don't want to live in
representing
her.
her up there too.
I don't want to live in her shadow, but I don't want to. Also, I don't want to let her down.
Yeah, of course. Well, you started writing music, and for you, man, if I got this number correctly, it is blowing my mind right now. You have written more than 3,000 songs. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yes, sir.
I don't even understand how that's humanly possible, but I mean, you have been writing music from an early age. So how did songwriting start for you?
Man, songwriting is so I burned out on the singing at around 13, and I started writing blues, and I got into the adrenaline rush of that stuff, and and then I lived some more
Yeah,
life.
let me just make sure everybody who's driving right now or who's got the children begging for their attention didn't miss that. You said it's not thrilling enough to be on stage. Let me transition to riding bulls at 13 years old because that's a little bit less scary than being on stage, right, with a microphone.
Well, all my friends were doing it, and I would get taken. I would go to a rodeo, and I'm like I said, I'm not one to watch. I said, you know, I said
Yeah,
it's
so
only
yours,
25.
I got this picture of you standing next to a buddy saying, "How hard can it be? Let me go get on that bull and just see what it feels like."
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, I can do it. You know what I
All right,
mean? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I could get on one and I could get off one.
get off one real quick, right?
I didn't know exactly how I was gonna get off, but I
Yeah.
always knew how to hit the ground pretty hard.
All
And
right.
but I never mastered the art of the balance. But at the same time, I kept getting on, and I
Yeah.
never became no champion or nothing like that. But I got on a few, and I made it right there too, almost the point where I thought I was gonna win something, then I didn't, and then. But at the same time, I realized that hey, man, maybe bull riding ain't for you after you've been stepped on and kicked and beat down. But at the same time, when I got up tougher every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
so, and I did that, and I did some dirt track racing, because also one of
Mhm.
them things where there wasn't very many things to go do. You either go see the races or the rodeo, and
And you
so
decided both, Ben. Like, why choose one? Just do
yeah,
both.
yeah, just doing both. Yeah, so I did that and did that for a little bit, and then I had to mature myself pretty early on, and so I said, now I'm just gonna go do some living, and I quit high school at 18, went to work, and after working a little bit, I wrote my first song, and to be honest with you, songwriting came in pretty, pretty, pretty around that time when I started learning. Okay, it's the real world.
Yeah.
I had been working in the hay fields and stuff like that my whole life, and doing stuff like that after school because that's all we really did was work. My dad was always working, I was always working. But when I was out there by myself and having to hold myself accountable and hold myself, uh, starting to learn that hey, you can't come out here and go out and get messed up at night and come back and try to work
Yeah.
and do this
Right.
stuff, especially on a drilling rig, because you get killed. And so I
Yeah.
just started writing about the daily struggles of learning to maneuver myself through this change in life, uh, and it just became like a daily journal for me to
Yeah.
write a song. I couldn't say it. Couldn't play a guitar. I couldn't play any kind of instrument, and I just started hearing melodies in my head, and I started hearing the words come to me, but I could never say anything without it rhyming. And
That's fascinating. You use language like daily journal because if you're listening to this episode right now, let me put this in context. 3,000 songs is like the equivalent of writing a song a day for almost 10 years, like
yes,
9 years. That's how prolific of a songwriter you are, Bryan. And it has to come out naturally. I mean, nobody who has to really work at songwriting is going to be able to crank out the number of songs, let alone how powerful and how honest your songs are. So I want to go back to that time when you quit high school and you ran into life in the real world. I think that's kind of what you just described it. And when you found life in the real world, you life got hard. It went from rough to really rough for you. So you dropped out of high school, 18 years old, and you start working on an oil rig. And I know what the word roughneck means, the
yes,
guys that are
sir.
working on the oil rig. When
yes,
you
sir.
have rough in the title of the guys working on the oil rig, it ought to tell you something about what this is like.
yes, sir.
There's people around the world that are listening to this episode, Bryan, that have no idea what a roughneck is and what an oil rig is like. So can you just describe what this brutal lifestyle is for the listener who has no clue?
Yes, sir. Like I said, it's a rough lifestyle, but at the same time, when you live in where I live, you're either on the
That's
farm or you're on
yeah,
the rig,
right.
and a rig is there's no give in that iron. Like there's no almost hurt yourself. It's everything around you is there to kill you, pretty
Yeah.
much, you know. And you have to really try to manipulate these things into working it towards your favor instead of against your favor,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And you see so many people that don't know, but like just to put fuel in your cars and fuel in your gas heaters and stuff like that, like there's a lot of lives being lost
Yeah.
because we are pretty much dancing with the devil out there, you know. I think it's one of those things where, you know, we kind of go to some real deep depths where you get down there and there's just such high pressures in the gas and if you're not doing what you're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing, it just changes in an instant. It's literally there's no room for error.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're out there swinging a hammer 12 hours a day, beating on hammer unions and
Uh-huh.
you're running up and down stairs and it's a nonstop go. Like I always say this and people don't understand it, but the roughnecks understand it. Like there's no set lunch break. There is no set time for you to have a break. So like if you wanted to eat, you had to have it either in your pocket or on somewhere nearby or wherever you
Uh-huh.
was working, and you didn't have time to go to a change house a lot of times and clean your hands. Sometimes you got a
Yeah.
little bit of that dirt in your sandwich, but you had
Uh-huh.
if you wanted to eat, you ate it, and you just kept rolling. And that's just the mentality of the guy next to you and the guy behind you and the guy around you. That they all have a family they came up there with, and no matter if you're trying to take that next spot, you know that we're all leaving here the same way we
Right.
came here because we all have a family and we all came here to do one thing, and that's try to get the job done.
Yeah, and I want the listener to remember that when you're pulling into the gas station and you're filling up your car, that there were a lot of people that were in a very dangerous position to be able to get you that one, to be able to let you fill that up. And I am minimally aware of just how dangerous this lifestyle is. But being a roughneck, you can never, ever let your guard down, right? You can't make a mistake because one mistake can, and in a lot of people's cases, has killed them. So it's
Yes, sir.
just relentless. You got to always be on guard because a mistake will kill you.
Yes, sir. And I've always been the kind, and I don't know if it's I think a lot of people are that way, especially out there. That mentality is, uh, I'm always looking out for the guy that's around me more than I am myself,
Yeah.
just because because at the end of the day, they're all we have for most of our
Right.
life. They're like our real blood family. I mean, we're out there with these guys, and don't have nobody to share the things that we're going through unless we
Yeah.
share it with these guys. So
Right.
it's like, and if I want to learn the next position, you know, if I say, hey, I want to work derricks, and that's which I went to,
Uh-huh.
I'd have to go talk to the derrick hand and say, hey, let me go up there and at night and trip that pipe, and you go learn how to run that rig. But I had to make sure that the guy behind me at least knew what I knew, because I can't leave that job for 1 second
Right.
to learn the next job unless that guy behind me is at least where I'm at mentally on able to handle that job. Because anything goes wrong, it don't matter if I'm trying to learn the next position or not. I'm responsible for that guy if he gets killed or if something happens or something blows up, because that's my job.
Yeah.
And I've always been that self-aware
Yeah.
about the people around me.
Yeah. Not only looking out for yourself, but looking out for the people around you.
That's it. We all got
Um,
a family. We just trying to make
that's
a
right.
paycheck.
Yeah. Well, listen, the word rough is in the title roughneck because it
Yes, sir.
really is a rough life. But there are some rough men, you and I both know it, that choose this lifestyle. And I'm talking about cussing, drinking,
Yes, sir.
partying, just some guys that are really tough, really rough guys. So
I've been there too.
this well, I mean, this is not meant to be a segue, man. I just want people to hear a little bit about your story. So, when did you first get introduced to pills, and how did that start for you? Because to the audience, it goes from introduced to pills to becoming a full blown opiate addiction. When did that start for you, man? How did that start?
Well, like I said, without outing any of my family or anything, but it's all I had in my family was drug addiction, and so it started at a very early age because I was always trying to blend in uh, trying to be, hang out and like I said, uncles and aunts and this, that, and the other. I see things
Uh-huh.
going on. I learned a lot of things, but at the same time, I got that rebellion in me that was like, I don't do nothing. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm all, and I started dipping dipping snuff at like
All right.
8 years old, sneaking around, and then it turned into, well, let me try this, let me try that. Alcohol at an early age, and then drugs at an early age, and I had a hurt collarbone from working or playing football, and I
Uh-huh.
had to go to work in the hayfields and stuff. So it's like I took one of my, aunt's pills, and then it turned into a whole bunch of more stuff. Just kind of kept going. I said, all right, well, by the time I got to 18 years old, I had done took everything that I told myself, and I still was in this whole deal where I would go, I ain't gonna be like them,
Yeah, that's
but I
right.
was, but I
I'll
wasn't.
be different. I'm different, right?
I'm
I know it
different. Yeah,
happens to them, but it ain't gonna happen to me.
it ain't gonna happen to me. I ain't gotta have this, But
That's right.
and then by 18, I was like, I gotta have it. And then after that, when I got on the rigs, I learned that back in the old days, there wasn't a whole lot of we were still roughnecks. Like it wasn't like it is today. Today, there's so many different things that they've evolved, which I'm proud, man. Like I said,
Yeah.
but I got ran over by a forklift, like literally as soon as I got
Wow.
in the oil field, and wound up hurting myself and separating two bones in my neck, and didn't get surgery to fix it. I just told them they told me I wasn't gonna be able to work no more, and I said,
Yeah.
well, I walked in here, I'll walk out, kind of thing, And I just kept going, and had a couple episodes early on where I went into like a fetal position, couldn't get out for like 3 days, but once I got out, I'd keep working to the next,
Yeah.
had that nerve in my neck,
Right.
and but eventually it just kind of, I guess it didn't really heal itself, but it did, because I kept working, and I kept working through it no matter what was going on. I've had you know my teeth knocked out, and I get back on some more pain pills, and like I said, that iron don't play, man.
Yeah.
I've had a I've been I've had a couple of things where I was like, man, I don't want to hurt the company by being out here with like
Right.
ice on this deal, and I slipped and hit the choke manifold handle and broke some of my teeth out. You know how it is out there on the rig. You don't. I'm not turning this in, because
Mhm.
I'm tough enough to
Might
take
not
it.
have a job tomorrow if I do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm tough enough to take it. So it was always just push through it, no matter what was going on, no matter what was happening. We knew what we was getting into when we signed up to be a roughneck, and I just always kept that mentality of, as things evolved and all the OSHA and JSAs and everything started coming in, I was one of the ones that was like, man, this takes more time
Mm-hmm.
to get the job done, but I had to look at it from a bigger picture
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I'm also one of those old school hands that wants to just get the job done, but also I know I've lost, a lot of people that I've met along the way
Right.
because it wasn't done the right way. And then that starts sinking into you as you grow older. That takes
Yeah.
a little bit more maturity and a little bit more of knowing that, just because you were brought up this way in the oil field, that it's not, even now, I think that they do go a little bit over the top with some of the things,
Uh-huh.
but there's a middle there to where the guys in the office and the guys on the rigs, can meet in the middle somewhere to
Yeah.
make it more,
Yeah.
more for the hands,
Right.
because like we don't, if we're gonna go do something simple, like let's pump a little bit of water down a hole, and the max pressure is going to be like 100 pounds of pressure or something, or 250 pounds of pressure, and it's just a little old test. Like, let's not do 50 or an hour
Yeah.
long gathering everybody to and to do a job that's going to take like 30 minutes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right.
But that's my take on it, man.
Sure. Um, I've done interviews with guys on this episode or in the show that have experimented with drugs. Many of them, it went from experimenting to getting hooked on drugs. And I've done an episode or two of somebody that just kind of wrecked their life and then finally got things back on track because of drugs. I don't want people to hear your story right now and think that it was really simple or really easy for you, because, and I'm just going to tell people this part of your story, and then I want you to explain it. Your life gets really, really so miserable that you try to kill yourself not once, but twice, back to back, at 19 years old. And man, you're a storyteller. You tell stories in music. So I want you to tell the listener right now, like what got you to the point where it was so bad that you back to back decided I can't take it anymore, and the only thing left for me is to just end it all.
Well, I had a good job. I was, like I said, I was working on the rigs, and me and my cousin, and we were real close, and he was going off to the Navy, and part of my deal was he grew up in a home that had a lot of addiction going on in it. So I was always around him, kind of like trying to be a buffer between the situation, you know. And my daddy was, just a hard worker. You know, I can't say nothing more, but my mama was just a warrior. You know, she was just a regular mama. But sometimes it just got to the point where I saw that there was things going on in other people's, like my cousin's life, that I just kind of became a buffer, and we became like a best friend, like a brother thing.
Yeah.
And same thing with my other cousin, and he had his share of run-ins, with things like alcohol at early age, and so I've always tried to be the one saving somebody, but I never took time to save myself.
Yeah.
And so he was going to the Navy, and I tried to go with him, and because I was like, hey, if you're going, I'm going. And it was really me just running away from the drugs, because I had done got to a point to where I was like, I ain't gonna get off of them or do no better with my life here. I mean, I ain't got nothing around me but to do wrong. And so I tried to go, and they wouldn't take me because I didn't have a high school diploma. So he went, and I said, well, heck with it. I just went to the door next to him, and I went to the Army. And they said, well, you got to get a GED. So I went into a night school and took the pre-test, and they was like, you're pretty much ready already. So literally within a week, I had my GED, went back, and I joined, and my dad, I didn't tell him. And when I told my dad, he was, first time I ever really saw him emotional. And he's like,
really?
how am I supposed to protect you out there, And I said, I just need to go, man. I said, I need to go.
Yeah.
I said, I
Gotta
gotta
get out of here, right?
I gotta get away from some of this stuff. And it's not a place to go to get away from. It's not a place to go for rehab. I can promise you that. So,
Don't join the United States military, the U.S. Army for rehab. That's not.
If you have a real heavy addiction and you quit like literally a couple hours before you go into their world, it's not a good place to go
well
with
for
you.
you.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a good place. And so like literally, but I go in there, and like I said, mentally I was already broken. So without the drugs, I didn't have nothing to numb that anymore. So like I went through the process of trying to let them break me and me not break, and going back and forth and back and forth. And to be honest with you, I salute every. I'm gonna take this moment to say I salute every person who is in the armed services. And,
Absolutely. So do I.
I'm gonna tell you right now, my whole family on my daddy's side, my grandfather was in the Navy, my sister's in the Navy, and she's married to a Marine. So it's like, I thought, well, I can do it, And so I went in there with that mindset, that bull rider, tough guy, oil field guy mindset. And I can tell you that it's a lot tougher. It's a toughness that I didn't never really have to address, and that was the mental toughness. And, but I learned how to love everyone around me, and I learned how to, even if that person was right in my face and calling me the worst person in the world, and I hated authority at that time, man. And but I learned how.
I hate authority, and I need to get. I need to break this drug addiction. Let me go to the U.S.
Let
Army.
me go to the U.S. Army. Yes. And so it's like, man, like I said, I went through the whole training there and everything, and I wound up, don't know how it happened, and I still. This is what really brought this suicide thing on was, I was almost done, and I had an allergic reaction in the field, and and I was like at the end of my training, and I wound up swelling up from the outside. First time it ever happened to me, and I couldn't breathe. Well, they're like, go back to the infirmary. Well, it's like an 8-mile March, when we carrying all my stuff, and by the time I got there, I couldn't breathe. I was about to fall out. And so I get there, and they stick me with one of them EpiPen things or whatever it is, and then I wake up and I got discharge papers by my bed, and they're like, "You withheld information. You're getting Article 15."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "You had asthma, respiratory problem as a kid," which I told my recruiter and all this stuff, but no
Didn't
hate
make it
towards
to
recruiters.
your records, right?
No hate towards recruiters, but
Yeah.
yeah, I told him. He just let that one slip through the cracks, and
Uh-huh.
I took the blunt force of it. And after about 3 months of that, I finally made it home. When I made it home, wasn't long. I got a waiver sent in the mail, and they was like, "You want to go back?" And so I was like, after what I just went through, just on the out process, I was like, "Hell no!"
No,
so,
I'm gonna pass on that.
I'm gonna pass
Yep.
on that. Y'all took all my pay away, you know. But so I did that, but I came home and I could not look at none of my family because I felt like a failure. For
You
the first
felt
time in
like
my
you
life,
let
I
them
said I
down.
have to do something. I didn't. I didn't keep. And so that hit me hard, and that hit the drugs again. And then drugs and alcohol and feeling like a failure just don't mix. And so I wound up with um, 30 Percocets, a fifth of whiskey, and a 357. I said, one of these three will get it, And and I took the 30. I drank the whiskey, and I pulled the trigger on a 357 Magnum, and it misfired. And
Wow.
and the suicide note that I was going to leave behind for my mom and them, because I truly just had become this, not the person that they were
Yeah.
raising,
Right.
just
Yeah.
the person who was trying to, you know, I don't know. It's
Yeah. Sure.
crazy. I had the parents that wasn't like that, and they were trying to lead me away from that, but I kept going the way of,
Going right back into it. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to feel somebody. I had that empathy for everyone, but I put myself in their pain to try to
Hmm.
think that I was going to help blend in enough to heal them, but I was killing myself.
Yeah.
And so like I literally put that into a suicide note, and man, when that gun was fired, I could still feel the thump on my temple, and every day that's been my metronome, man.
Wow.
And so like that note turned into my first song, and it was called "Can You Hear It?" Because that night, uh, when that happened, after I blacked out from the alcohol, um, I woke up and I kept hearing this voice saying, "You're not done," you know. And I woke up, and spiritually, I felt like there was something changing in me, and I cussed and hollered and said, "If this is you, God, give me a second chance. I didn't ask you for it." I just wanted to go home, you know. And I kept hearing, "You're not done." And then next thing I know, that day I met the woman who's that like literally 6 hours or so, within, I picked her up and we went on our, I met her. And then the next day after that, I met her, and next day we went on a date, and we've been together for 15 years and got 4
Wow.
kids. And
Yeah.
so it's literally like in a matter of a day, that was the day before I had my life.
Yeah.
Uh, I almost tried to take it, and then, so ever since then I've been living like, this is a second chance, a second. I get to see the sunset one more time. I get to
Right.
see the beauty in this, and so like the only way I knew how to get all this out of me, and to make it something that felt like it was going to impact somebody, or help somebody that was in that position, because I know that there's so many people like that, and especially
Yeah.
if you deal with depression and stuff. Like, I just took a piece of paper that first time and wrote it in a note, everything I wanted to say. So
Uh-huh.
I did. I felt the healing in it, but I wasn't. I didn't want to. I didn't. It's like I said. So like that's the first time I took a piece of paper and wrote it down, and then I threw it away. But after that, it wasn't writing no more. It was just. It was literally just every day I had a melody come in my mind, and it
Yeah.
was singing these words that were the truth of what I was going through, the truth of this day. So it was a daily journal. It was a daily struggle. It was a daily growth that showed my maturity
Yeah.
through life and through my family, and as life progressed. And I learned that all started with something that I learned from writing something down that I had been holding in for a long time.
Yeah,
And
man, you just said something a moment ago that it was so powerful. I actually just wrote it down that your second chance in life was when that firing pin hits the primer on that bullet and it doesn't go off. And you use the language like that's your metronome now. That's the thing that keeps you writing and keeps you making music. And man, Bryan, that story is powerful because there are some people that are really struggling right now and they've got the pills and the bottle and the pistol and they're saying, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Maybe I'm just going to go for the escape exit. Maybe I'm just going to take the pills. Maybe I'm just going to put the pistol in my mouth and end it all. And I want people to hear from you. It wasn't easy. It didn't happen overnight. And in fact, if you listen to your songs, if you pay attention to those words, there's a lot of pain in those words.
yes, sir.
But it's worth the second, third, fifth chance at life. It's worth it if you just
That's
don't
it.
throw in the towel.
Oh yeah, and it didn't. And this is the deal too: is sometimes when you live through something like that, there is always going to be the threat of complacency.
Yeah.
So you like, I lived through it. I've been having some great things happen in my life. And then you get in another valley, and you feel that lonely, but you're not alone feeling, you know. But you also kind of don't have the time to address it. Again, here you are again, going back down this rabbit hole of I don't have the time to address it. I don't have
Yeah.
the time to address it. And then when it hits you at all at one time, you're like, I've done wrecked to a lot of things. I've done kind of dabbled
Right.
back. That's me. I truly believe that that's me straying away from the light a little bit because
Yeah.
I've always been the kind of like I'll put a little bit of myself in the light and I'll change it.
Uh-huh.
But more, if I put my whole self in the light at one time, it's like nope, I can't change all of it at one
That's
time.
right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's like that's my mentality was like, and then the more I get closer and closer to doing good, I was a self-destructor, man. Like I would go to self-destruct mode and then I realized that hey, this isn't one, it ain't
Yeah.
going away.
Right.
And I'm telling my testimony all over the place. I was doing ministry at that time. Whenever
Yeah.
all that happened, I got saved and I went in the ministry and just started telling my testimony. But I realized real quick that I'm telling my testimony. And I'm having to, give these stories to people, and I'm listening
Yeah.
to their stories and knowing that they're going through the same things, and it helped me. But at the same time, I'm going, man, like I'm telling these people this, but I'm not telling them that it goes on every day.
Right. That's right.
It's like, and this is a daily battle. Like you got to use the people around you. If you take it up to yourself to go, I know somebody that's hurting,
Yeah.
and I'm hurting really bad, and I take what I'm feeling to maybe get with somebody else who's feeling that, and we just start helping each other. We
Right.
learn that we feel an instant gratification from helping others that keeps
Right.
us going. That's our
Yeah.
drive. That's what gets us up every day. It's hard to do things for yourself when you're in that level. But if you do something and you take that chance to reach out and help somebody else, it automatically changes everything in your life. You become happy. Don't matter what your financial situation is. Don't matter what your relationship status is or what you've been through. When you've got somebody around you that is struggling just as hard or is going through
Yeah.
something, and you can try to help them with it. And
Yeah.
that's
And
my
every
daily. That's what the
and
songs are.
every listener's got somebody around them that's struggling. They may not know it, they may not be showing it, but there are people around you that are struggling. Bryan, right before we started this episode, you and I were talking about, that daily fight. And I need you to explain this a little bit better to the listeners because the people that I know that are struggling with alcohol or drug addiction or some other really severe issue in their life, none of them use language like I'm over it now or I'm a former alcoholic. They usually use language like I am a
Recovery.
recovering. That's a present tense participle. I am a recovering alcoholic, even if it's been 30 years since I took my last drink. I'm saying that because I want you to explain to the listener, like for you, this stuff is not over. It's
No.
get up tomorrow and keep fighting this battle. Because if you stop fighting for one day, you
Yeah.
might be right back to that 357 in your hand.
Yes, sir. And that's the deal too. Is recovering is a very good word because it don't matter how many times you go into a situation. Like if you have an opiate addiction,
Yeah.
I can honestly say that just now in my life, after all these years, just now in my life, if somebody was to walk in with a bottle of pills that was, hydrocodone or opiate.
Right.
Even if I'm having hurting from all these years of broke down working, I don't want it. I don't have the desire for it. So it's like taking those wins and
Yeah.
going,
And it took you a long time to get to the point that you don't have a desire
yeah.
for it anymore,
But
right?
but until then, you have to stay away from it. Like to be honest with you, like it's hard to do that because if everybody around you does it, it's definitely gonna prolong the relapses
Yeah.
because man, we can all say, you know, every now and then somebody has that mental toughness to go, you know what, I'm done, and they have but you know what they're doing? They're putting someone or somebody or themselves above the drug. You have
Right.
to
Yeah.
put that above the drug, and you literally have to know that if I do this again, I'm losing this. If I
Yeah.
do this again, I'm losing my family. And it's literally like you have to keep those building blocks, and you have to keep those things in mind, and just look at it and go, man, I don't miss that sickness anyway. Like it's a
Right.
sickness. It really is. Like you feel good for not even a third of the time you feel bad.
Yeah.
So like, why would you put yourself through that pain just to have that little bitty bit of a high? And it's like I've learned that through life that there's so much more you can get out of life and love and your children. Like just one time for your kid to come up to you, and
Right.
I mean, like I said,
It makes
that's
it
that's
worthwhile, right?
yeah, that's the drive,
Makes the
man.
hard road of recovery worthwhile, right?
That's it. I have
Yeah.
4 babies, so it's like every time I needed I need
Every
so
time you need a hug, you got one,
I
right?
got one. That's it.
Yeah. Well, you just used the language that I really, really like. I don't think I've heard people use this before, but I want folks to know what you're describing is putting something in front of that temporary pleasure that you get from that addiction. And basically, you're trading that addiction, you're
For another.
taking that addiction and exchanging it for something else. And that makes it worth the hard work. Look, nobody breaks addiction by just simply walking away. It's always hard work. And what we're saying right now is usually that work doesn't end for years or decades. But you have to remind yourself, man, there's something more important than that temporary feeling of high or that, thing that addiction gives you. And that's what I'm putting more important in my life.
It's like you said. I took 10 years to tell my story through the song addiction. That I have. I have a song called Addiction,
Uh-huh.
and it took me losing my uncle. And he was murdered, and
Mm.
and it was an addiction. My aunt had an addiction. He had an addiction, and it wound up one of them had what they had, and the other one didn't, and it turned into a
Yeah.
domestic thing. And now he's gone, and I still carry him around with me everywhere because
Mm-hmm.
he's always gonna be the one I feel like I couldn't save, But at the same time, man, I wear that a lot. I wear
Yeah.
that a lot because everybody that I'm talking to now, everybody that I'm relating to, I want them to know that I promise you, I am not no higher or lower than anyone. I'm eye to eye and going through the same battle you're going through every day. So it's like, don't ever put me on a pedestal. Don't ever think that I'm the guy on the stage that's commanding something or being something that I'm not. I always want somebody to know that if you're standing where you're at, you're only one step away from being where I'm at.
Right.
Because I'm literally on the same level. And
Yeah.
I just learned how to turn the pain into and so like addiction, that song, it says you said addiction's always with you. I said at the end of that song, it says, I'm a darkness that comes in any size. You can't hide me, they can see it in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Sinner or saint, I'll leave you telling lies, but I'll be with you till the day you die. And the reason why I end that song out with the same line that's in the beginning of that song is because you're always going to be addicted to something. And it just depends on what you want to replace your addiction with.
Mm-hmm.
Be addicted to being a better person. Be
Yeah.
addicted to writing. Be addicted to loving. Be addicted to helping others.
Yeah.
And there's and if you replace something in your life You're going to be addicted to a coffee every morning. You're going to be addicted to whatever you're addicted to, just change that addiction to something that's a little bit better, a little bit more healthier,
Yeah.
a little bit something that's going to pull you away from that darkness. Because I truly believe people who have an addiction with a real problem that started medically, that started with chronic pain, and
Right.
people who have those addictions, like I truly believe that there's a lot of people out there right now that are really truly hurting,
Right.
and that pain medicine and that stuff just wears off so quick because of
Yeah.
the way your immune system is built, But now with everything that's going the way it's going, with the fentanyl and everything, like
Yeah. Man, one pill and you can be full blown addicted today.
we were just talking about this the other day. I wrote a song with a guy. Me and Trey Lewis wrote a song with this guy, and a really great guy, and he was on America's Got Talent, and Nolan Neal. And we wrote a song called No Good at Giving Up, and it's an inspirational song for people who go through this stuff. And I found out yesterday, while we were talking about that song, that he had passed, and he had been.
Oh, man.
And then but he fentanyl overdose.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's just one of those deals where it's like, man, why didn't I? You almost want to go, why didn't I just?
Why didn't I say something else or do, take one more step towards it?
Yeah, one more step towards it, man. Because, that's the end of the day, like I'm telling my story and we're telling our stories together, but who knows? There's a lot of people around you that are going through the same exact thing, and they're more worried about trying to save you.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, like, save yourself, save others, and just know that it's not going to be easy.
Right. Okay, so I want to go back for just a second. You put your pain, you put your heart into music. It's obvious when you write an album like Self-Inflicted Scars that you're not afraid to tell all of those the dark parts about your life, not just the good, happy stories.
Yes, sir.
You really are, man. I was thinking you're like the modern day Man on Fire movie. Like you put the pistol to your head, you pull the trigger, but it doesn't go off, and you really do get a second chance at life. But the part of your story that I really want the listeners to get before this episode ends is you're on an oil rig, and man, this is not what you want to be doing with the rest of your life. You're around some good dudes, but it's a rough life. And you got a dream, and that dream just pours out of you very naturally in the form of writing songs. But how do you go from an oil rig to beauty in the struggle? How do you go from an oil rig to becoming a no-kidding singer-songwriter? Because there's newsflash, if you're driving and listening to this right now, there's a difference between writing a song and being a songwriter.
Yes.
So, man, let me know what that journey was like, will you? Because there's plenty of people that are right now working a miserable job and they hate it, and they have a dream, but they've never taken one step towards that dream. So how did this happen for you, man?
So I'm out there working on the rigs, and every day I'm writing songs about what we're going through. And then the guys around me start kind of gathering around, and they're sharing it on their stuff. And they're like, man, you need to put these songs out. Nobody writes about our way.
Hey, Bryan, you just described what it looks like to sit down with one or two other guys and write a song and create something beautiful. And I just want to pause for a second and recognize one of our sponsors. Go Ministries is built around connecting people to one another and then mobilizing them to go out and to change the world. And really, it happens when one or two people get connected to each other around a common purpose, kind of like writing a song together, except doing it for the purposes of discipleship. So I want you to check out this really short information clip about Go Ministries.
Hi, my name is Will Parton. I'm the president of Go Ministries. Go Ministries empowers local leaders to make disciples. Over the past 30 years, I've seen our ministry go from one family, one church, and one school to over 300 local leaders making disciples in 150 different communities through church planting, sports, and medical. And we're getting ready to expand into other countries. The way that we define a disciple-making culture is when mentorship, mission, and multiplication are present. When there's that one-on-one mentorship between two people that are sharing the gospel, we believe that discipleship is taking place. And then when a group of people are gathering together and they're on mission together, serving their community that surrounds them. That's another part of discipleship. And then lastly, you can't be a disciple or disciple maker if multiplication isn't the final goal. So would you please join us in our disciple making movement and our disciple making culture by going to gomen.org.
Yeah, like nobody writes about these things that we're dealing with out here, And I was like, well, I'm gonna put it out on Facebook. So like literally, there's probably 1,000 videos of me just sitting in a change house somewhere, and we're literally, if I wrote it, it came out straight to Facebook.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Trial by fire. Just like, hey, I don't care what you think. I just want you to listen.
Yeah.
And so I did that for years, and then I put out like 1 or 2 songs a year. I wasn't gonna take, I waited on income tax to come in. I wasn't gonna take money out of my baby's mouth.
Right.
But I'd put out 1 or 2 songs a year for about 10 years there, and I wrote Oilfield Dad when I was like, I think I was 28, 29. I'm telling my age now. But but it's so I wrote Oilfield Dad, and that was about my babies, and that was about me missing home. And man, the way that thing blew up and resonated with the whole oilfield community, because it literally says in one of the lines, it says, I miss half their life to give them one I never had. It ain't easy being an oilfield dad. And I think a lot of people really resonated with that. And I think that turned into everybody on the rig saying, man, you're like a celebrity now. Why ain't you in Nashville or on The Voice?
Right.
Everybody wants to say, why ain't you on The Voice or this, that, and the other. I said, man, well, I'm down in a cellar with these guys, like knee deep in oil and stuff, and swinging a hammer. And I said, I'm only a celebrity when I'm standing next to you guys. I said, why would I want to go up there? And then all the while, the woman who's back at home, like I said, I've always told her from the beginning. I said, hey, when she stood by me through the relapses and the stuff, she would say, I'm leaving. And all she'd have to do is say, I'm leaving. And it was like, it snapped me out of it. Now, it was always my constant, don't do this, say it again, don't do it again.
Yeah.
And I said, through all the things I've been through, you've always been the beauty in the struggle. And I've said that forever. And I don't know why it took so long to write it, but I'll tell you that I got so caught up in my depression again that I lost her for a little bit, because I was out there on the rigs. The oil field fell out, and then it goes back to a financial struggle.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, and then, I remember in 2019, I won Songwriter of the Year in Texas. And I was so excited for a moment. And then that moment was like, oh, this can't, I don't deserve it. You know how you go automatically in your head, like, And so it's like, there's so many better songwriters there, but I'm always that guy. Like, I don't know why I am, but it's just like I'll second guess things, and I'll go, hey, I'm pretty good, but I don't give myself pats on the back, and I don't take pat on the backs, and it's just the way I was raised, I guess. It's like you always can be better, you always can strive to do better, but as long as you take those little brief moments to go, hey, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
And so like I had to do that when me and her split up, and for about a year, and I wound up having a real bad wreck, and I wound up with ICU with a brain injury, and
Wow.
it was real bad. And then I came back home and put my life back together, and at that time I told her, I said, hey, I'm going back to work, and I'm going to kind of give this music thing up for a little bit. And I said, but I wrote you this, and this song, and that song caught wind, and it started taking off. Next thing I know,
you got to tell people how much wind it cost. It caught.
It caught some wind, and it's like, and then it's me going back to myself and going, man, every time you get in a corner, God brings you out swinging, and it's like. And I think it's just that back in the corner mentality of going, nope, I know where this goes. It goes nowhere. So let's come back out of here and let's just hit it hard. I know it's tough, but hey, let's do it again. It's like I said, that keep fighting mental thing. And so when I wrote that, people came out the woodworks and they were like, hey, why don't you come do this? Sign this label. And I told them all that. I said, I don't want to go back out there right now, just because I just got this thing figured out, and I'm finna put the bottle down, and
Yeah.
and you
Right.
know, because the bottle came back into my life during that
Oh, yeah.
divorce,
Yeah.
and the 6 years sober. It's like I said, it's a constant battle, man. It's like,
Mhm.
once you pick it back up, you have to fight even harder the next time, and then you just got to keep fighting. And so, I told her, she said, you're not putting that guitar down. She's always told me that. She said, you're not putting that guitar down because she said, I love you, but I don't think I can deal with you if you're not writing songs. She's
That
like,
guitar is the only thing makes you sane.
yeah, she's like, I don't think I could deal. She's like, I love you, but I don't think I could live with you if you're not doing music.
Uh-huh.
Because she said that is the one thing that I truly know, that everything that you've ever said to me or your family and your kids, that's the most authentic, truest thing that has always been a part of your life. And I was like, and I just told her one time, I said, I wish I just could one day find the words without having to make them right.
Yeah.
And say that, it's like, and then sometimes I do, but sometimes it still comes out a lot better in a song
Right.
than I can sit down and talk to somebody about. But so that happened, and I got with Average Joe's and Dirtified, and the label. And I
Uh-huh.
took a chance on it, man. And at the same time, in the beginning, it hit me a little bit too hard because this this lifestyle is different, man. It's
Yeah.
one of those deals where when you go doing this full time and you're out here, it's like, man, you talk about temptation. Like, there is the devil at every corner. And I say the devil. I can blame the bottle on being the devil all I want to, and I write him, and I write the devil and the bottle in a song a lot. But I'll tell you this right now: a lot of people would go out and have a good time to come watch you play. You do this every night, so it's like you're in a bar with alcohol, and people bring you shots, people bring you drinks, people bring you this, that, and the other, and it's like, I'm trying to quit, but I don't want to be rude, and and then you eventually have to just go. It's not being rude. They don't have to deal with what I have to deal
That's right.
with tomorrow
Yeah,
morning.
that's right.
They don't, and then the next morning, and so it's like,
Yep.
finally you start eventually going no. And I think that's my biggest thing, was like, I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings or make them feel like I'm being insulting or anything, or saying that I'm, not grateful that they're there and they want to buy me a
Right.
beer or a drink. But at the end of the day, like, let me get to a point to where I can just take your beer. And, because that's the deal. It's like, at this point in my life again, I done became an alcoholic again. So it's like, now I'm going back into recovery. That's so it's like, so that's what I've been doing, man, every day. And then sure enough, 8 months now, I've been completely again, where
All
I
right,
can just,
man.
you
All
know,
right.
it's just a
And
constant
keep fighting,
win
man.
after win after win,
Yeah.
and
Keep
it's,
fighting.
and I mean, I think I say 8 months since I've been able to go, okay, like, for real.
Yeah.
But anytime in between, if I wasn't on the road, there ain't no beer in my icebox. There ain't no, like,
Right.
that's the deal. It's like, there's never a case of beer could be put in my icebox and live there for 3 years, and I would never touch it.
Yeah.
But when the anxiety and stuff, you get on the road, and you
Yeah.
got more people looking at you. You got more people
Uh-huh.
wanting to buy you drinks. Like, used to, you couldn't get drunk off the people that wanted to buy you drinks. So it was like, so now I'm having to learn to be that. If I'm this person and I'm this guy that's living these songs and telling these stories and telling my story of the ups and downs and all this stuff, I'm sorry, but I'm old enough now to know that my kids can start seeing that, who am I going to grow up to,
That's
be
right.
like? Who am I going to grow up
Yeah.
to be like? And, if my daddy's got this song from this time when he had a real good time in his life and he beat something, but now he's battling again,
Yeah.
I want to show him more victory than losses.
Yeah.
And I want to show them that there is so much more happiness in finding that, and so that's my deal, man. So right now, with my music, I'm going out and I'm still writing songs and telling my story, telling the struggles, but at the same time, I'm winning, man.
All right.
So.
Well, I was going to say, people that listen to your music, maybe they resonate because you're being so real and they're thinking, this guy's like me. And hey, I want to have a beer. I'm going to buy this guy a beer, until you're doing that every day, all day long, day after day, and that will consume you. So, Bryan, I want to tell you, man, keep fighting, because your wife, your children, your family, your life
Yes,
is
sir.
worth that fight. But for you, in the lifestyle that you're in, man, it is a struggle every day, and just keep struggling, brother.
That's it, man. As long as you're struggling, uh, you're strengthening.
Yeah, and the struggle is worth it, basically, right? I mean, those children, your lifestyle, it's worth the struggle.
I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the struggle mainly because the toughness that is built in me to be able to use it for a tool for good, uh, to help others that maybe, like I said, haven't had that. They had the struggle, but they haven't had that time to strengthen
Yeah,
that mentality of knowing that there's something on the other side of it. You
right.
know, that's the deal. Is like you can see valleys all day long, but if you just know that you're only maybe a couple steps away from seeing what's on the other side of that hill.
Oh man, that's good words right there. I
So,
hope you heard that one. Say that one more time for people that are
yeah,
driving
man, it's it's,
now.
it's, lit- it's literally, man, like if you hit a valley, that is a time for learning because you literally are probably only a couple steps away from seeing what's on the other side of that mountain, and that mountain may not be near as big as what you're looking at or what perspective you're. Because when you're on the ground, man, that mountain looks tall, but if you stand
Yeah,
up, you might can see over the top of it.
right. Well, hey, I just want people to hear this is a guy who he didn't just release a video, a song, Beauty in the Struggle, that ends up going viral on the internet. That's not what happened with you, man. You were writing music, you were putting it out there for people to hear, and you were a celebrity, air quotes. I'm making air quotes for everybody who's
Yeah,
driving right now. You're
yeah,
a
yeah.
celebrity in the oil, on the oil rigs out there, basically just doing what comes natural to you. And I'm going to use this language, man. You have this God given gift to put what's in your heart into words and put it into song. And now you're using that gift. But I hope that listeners haven't missed that the lifestyle that you're in, man. It isn't easy. It's a struggle. But I also hope they're hearing that this struggle is worth it,
It's worth it.
because you can do a lot of good, man. You can really make
You can.
a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
You can, man. And I think that that's what you got to find. What's your healing? What's your healing?
Yeah.
If you're out there listening, you know, what is going to make you be able to feel like you're expressing something that you don't know how to express, because you can have pressure built up on the inside, and if you don't find a way to at least put a pinhole in it or something to vent that, you got to have something that's going to vent that.
Or you're
And
going to explode,
and if
right?
you're going to vent it and you turn it into something that's going to help
Yeah.
others vent theirs,
Yeah.
and that's even, it's like I said, if you're a singer and you're a songwriter and you come in this town, you can get lost in the glitz
Yeah.
and in the glamour of it. I mean, to be honest with you, I think,
Nashville can be a beautiful place, but
yeah,
it can be a brutal place
it
at
can
the
be
same
yeah.
time.
I haven't, and that's why I made a comment about this. Um, I'm me when I walk into a room, when I walk out of a room. I'm the same person. Like when I walk into a church or I walk into a bar, I'm the same person. And I think that that's a big thing too, is knowing who you are,
Yeah.
and embracing that with the scars, with the things
Yeah.
that are, and knowing that it's nothing wrong with that,
Right.
because a lot of people want to kind of put you in a like in this industry. You think you got to look a certain way, or you think you have to dress a
Mhm.
certain way, or you have to fit a certain bill, or you'll never make it to this level, or whatever. And it's not about how it's not about none of that. I think that it truly, see, a lot of people that I came from the outside in, so I came from the Texas circuit where it's a little bit rougher over there, but I came into this town and I just didn't ever put on the mask. So, I think that's the big deal. Just keep the mask off and let people see you for who you are. And if they
Yeah.
accept you for who you are, then you'll find out pretty soon that you stand out from a lot
Yeah.
because
Well,
of it.
this is exactly what it means to be unbeatable, Bryan. You're describing it perfectly. I want to wrap this whole interview up with one question, man. You've got a lot going on right now. Got an album that's you're dropping singles for right now. Got a single that just came out. but what's the next big goal for you? And I don't mean just professionally or musically, but just as a man, what's the next big thing that you're excited about, you're looking forward to?
Man, I'll be honest with you. My next big goal is tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, and tomorrow doing something more with my family and doing something more for my fans. You know, I don't even like to call them. It's like I don't even like to call them fans because they're just like me. You know what I mean? So it's like for the people who listen to me, the people who relate to me. I just want to do something more. That's my goal. You know, just as much more as I can do for the better of myself, my family, my people, the people around me, the people listening to me. So, you know, I don't set long-term goals because as you'll learn as someone like me, we take it day to day.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, I'd love to have a fishing trip, you know, or go back home to Louisiana and sit in a boat, John boat, like you talked about. You done got me hungry for a John boat, man.
Well, all right.
But yeah, man, like I said, I just want to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And keep telling it.
Well, you were telling the truth in this episode, man. Thank you for being so honest, so raw. And when we wrap this up, I'm going to tell people how they can find out about your latest single and connect with you some more. But man, thank you for being a guest on Unbeatable.
I appreciate it, brother. Love you. Be good, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Wow. Bryan just said something that will stick with me the rest of this week. He challenged you that if you're going through a valley right now, if you're going through some really rough period of your life, just keep in mind that the next hilltop might be 1 or 2 steps away. You can't see it because it's so dark right now, but it may just be 1 or 2 more steps before you get over that hill and you make it to the other side. And what Bryan is really saying is, don't give up in the valley. Keep going. Be unbeatable. In fact, while he was talking, I couldn't miss that last quote that he made. Tell you what I'm going to do this week as a result of this episode. I'm going to go out tomorrow and I'm going to do my best to make tomorrow great for my family, great for my friends, great for all of the followers of this podcast. And I hope you'll do the exact same thing. Take Bryan's advice and go make tomorrow great. I just want to say thanks. Thank you for following us. If you've been with us on social media, man, thank you for following us. Thank you for subscribing if you've been listening to this podcast. But if you found us for the first time, why don't you go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Go ahead and follow us on your favorite social media outlet. Just search for @Unbeatable Podcast. But I tell you the best way to get connected. We have an online community. It's called the Unbeatable Army. We give you content during the week. We send out information to you. We got freebies for you, and we'll give you an opportunity to comment directly on this episode on the website. Just go to unbeatablearmy.com to become part of the community or to join in the conversation. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Unbeatable with Bryan Martin. See you next time. God bless.